And of course, the biggest story in Canada is the rail lockout. And some people yesterday were saying they set a strike deadline, and so the employer locked them out. It would have been a strike if the employer didn't lock them out. And they're missing my point. My question is, who set the strike deadline for that point in time? Was it the union who set that? If it's the union and they're trying to use the harvest as a weapon to get a better deal or something to that effect, that seems strange. But my main question was, it seemed like strange timing to have all of this trigger around the same time, and to have inside sources, unnamed, fair enough, saying that the unions offered the employer to stagger their work stoppage so they could deal with one and then the other, and so on and so forth, like they're supposed to, because they're supposed to be in opposite years for negotiating the contract, right? That's how it's supposed to work. And they said, the employer said, no, we're not going to do that. So something seems fishy, and I want to find out who initiated it. What's the urgency? They've been without a contract since January. Why now? Did the union think they were going to win doing it this way? Did the employer think they were going to win doing it this way? Is there more to it than we understand? And I guess it's all kind of moot now, except that the government should have acted. There's lots to get to. Let's get to it. We're going to start with the rail lockout, and the rail lockout being ended by the feds, et cetera, et cetera. So, right, we'll get into it. But fundamentally, the fact that it got to the point that it got to yesterday is an indication of a very broken system. And the reason it's an indication of a broken system is because it's already done damage. There have been shipments denied. There's been movements done to mitigate damage of potentially leaving hazardous goods on the tracks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's already created delays, snafus, and so on and so forth. And people were upset. The incompetence, willful or just plain incompetence, and I think willful, but who knows, is causing material problems during the harvest, the most important time for things to move in a timely manner, right? Or a manner. And so it seems like, again, there's something fishy going on. And what is that? I don't know. People were upset as the day went on. People were more upset, and it seemed too quiet, but I was very busy yesterday, so apologies about that. I didn't have my finger on the pulses as well as I usually do, in my opinion. But it seemed too quiet to me. There wasn't any, there weren't people tweeting out one way or the other. Jagmeet Singh was tweeting out nonsense, and I'll show you that. But other than that, it seemed too quiet about the whole thing. And then by 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, I think it is, they sent out the tweet saying, okay, the federal government is intervening and people are going to get back to work very quickly, binding arbitration and all the rest. But up until that point, people were painting a picture of very dire things happening. Here's just one example. Gov.exe is sharing this. How bad could a prolonged rail strike of CN and CPKC be? Catastrophic. Yeah, and people were mincing words. This is, and I don't think they're wrong, right? I don't think they're incorrect in this. Here we go. People would, if this happened, if bare shelves started happening in Canada, I think people with means would go visit other countries. I'm going back to Kyiv, or I'm going back to Ukraine, because at least there they have food. Here's just a little bit of this.
The rail will stop with no real alternative.
One word, catastrophic. There has never been a rail strike where both carriers went on strike at the same time.
The economic impact would be catastrophic, quite frankly. It's a very unprecedented situation for us.
Normally, these two railways, Canadian National and Canadian Pacific Kansas City, negotiate their labor contracts in different years to avoid exactly this. But last year, the government gave one company an extension on those negotiations so that it would have time to incorporate new rules that had been imposed on the industry. That means both companies' contracts expired at the same time.
There's still aspects of this that are not covered in this, although it's a good video. Again, the fact that, or the potential that the unions wanted to stagger the work stoppages and the employer said no, instead locking them out. And again, it doesn't really explain the impetus for all of this, right? Without a contract, and we have to do this now during harvest season. Has to be done right now. This is the strike deadline. Okay, like, was it the strike deadline in January and we're just figuring it out now that it's coming up quick, or what? Like, and perhaps it's just my lack of knowledge, but it seems like, again, there's more to it. The Feddersons is talking about how impactful this whole thing is. They say a CN disruption during the most important time of the year in Canada, harvest season, is curious to say the least. Oh, and this is your friendly reminder of who owns the most of CN, most CN stock, and why you should be thinking none of this is coincidental, and it's owned by Bill Gates, right? We've talked about that in the last couple of days, and right, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Vanguard Group and BlackRock. So, right, that's why, right? That's has something to do with it anyway. And then the people who are supposed to manage this on behalf of the Canadian public realize that, this is real damage happening right now. Paul says, due to unavailability of chlorine products, quote, railway work stoppages could give rise to new boil water advisories across Canada. In addition, farmers won't be able to get their harvested grain to market. If the availability of food and water are not reason enough to force Ottawa to act to end this railway strike quickly, then you know that our federal government is completely useless. So yeah, right, completely useless. That's definitely... They definitely are. It seems completely useless is, I think, absolving them of responsibility. It seems like they have a hand in this. It seems like it seems fishy. Jagmeet Singh says, instead of bargaining today, CN and CPKC chose to lock out 9,300 workers, hurting thousands of families in Canada's economy. Too often, the Liberals and Conservatives have rewarded corporate giants like CPKC and CN for locking out workers, fueling their greed. Workers and Canadians deserve better. And so Jagmeet Singh doesn't want the workers forced back to work. The food professor says at some point critical decisions must be made to protect the integrity of our food supply chain. If unions or companies must delay the shipment of cars and t-shirts, so be it. Food is different. It's about survival. Holding the entire food economy, starting with farmers hostage, is unsustainable, frustrating, and must come to an end. So yeah, people are upset about this kind of stuff. And as the day went on and it didn't seem to have any kind of movement one way or the other, people were getting kind of frustrated, right? Jagmeet Singh is saying NDP will withdraw support for the Liberals if Trudeau tries to force back to work legislation. Any measure that attacks workers' rights, we will vote against it, confidence or not, agreement or not, says Jagmeet Singh. Here's that minute in history. Here we go.
Well, we made it very clear that we would always oppose back to work legislation. I made that very clear to Justin Trudeau. I looked him right in the eyes and said, we will never support any back-to-work legislation. Never count on us. You'll have to go to Conservatives, who are the enemy of working people. You can go to yourself, because we know the Liberals have sold out working people again and again with back-to-work legislation, forcing them back to work, undermining their rights. So if that's the path the Liberals want to go, we're going to fight them every step of the way. We made it very clear. I said, whether it's confidence or not, I don't care. We're going to vote against any measure that attacks working people. Back to work, binding arbitration, we'll be voting against it. We'll be fighting it every step of the way. I made that abundantly clear to Justin Trudeau, and I make that clear again today.
But are you willing to break this time confidence agreement?
Well, if it's a confidence vote, that's breaking the agreement. We always have the right to withdraw our support from the agreement that we have. That remains our position. We can always pull away. We can always break it. But I'll make it very clear. If Justin Trudeau brings in any measure that attacks workers' rights, we will vote against it. Confidence or not, agreement or not, we will vote against it, and we will stand up for working people.
Okay, so Jagmeet Singh, very, very clear. And CTV Ottawa is reporting federal government to intervene in rail labor dispute, forcing binding arbitration. So can we expect a non-confidence vote from Jagmeet Singh? Come on. Jenny Wood says, where's the non-confidence vote, Jagmeet Singh? That's what you said. That's what you threatened. Will you sell out, Singh? So CTV Ottawa is reporting the same thing. And Holly Doan is reporting any disruption to the National Rail Service is, quote, sabotage, says Christia Freeland. We have been through a lot. I don't know what any of this means. They shut down the economy for COVID, and one day of a rail lockout, and the federal government is rushing to get them back to work. I mean, that's good, right? But it's very interesting. It's very interesting if you ask me, how quickly that they're responding to this. So I'm glad that people have been on the phone saying, like, you have to fix this and you have to fix this now. It's incredible how long they let this go on and how much damage has already been done up to this point. And I don't know if there's going to be more damage, like if it's going to take a weekend or if people are back on the job now. I got messages. People were commenting on yesterday's video saying, I'm in the East Coast and I'm watching CN workers working right now. And I was like, well, that's interesting. So, I mean, good, I guess. So New Brunswick maybe, but I don't know. But it seems like the implications of the federal government not acting to protect the shipping across the country was a big kind of banana peel slip up for these people. And the response was swift. And so the government has responded quickly, I guess. I had a tweet yesterday that wasn't in the list today because for some reason, sometimes tweets just don't save properly for whatever reason. Anyway, there's a little bit more information here in the CTV article. Just for interest's sake, Canada's Labour Minister Stephen McKinnon is intervening to end a work stoppage that saw this country's two largest railways grind to a standstill Thursday by forcing the parties into binding arbitration. Announcing the major move from Parliament Hill, McKinnon said he's invoking powers under Section 107 of the Canada Labour Code to direct the Canada Industrial Relations Board, CIRB, to assist the parties in settling the outstanding terms of their collective agreement by imposing final binding arbitration. McKinnon has also ordered the board to extend the term on the patient's current collective agreements until new deals are signed and is calling for operations on both railways to resume forthwith. So I don't know what that means. Like, does that mean right now? Or does that mean, once we get the I's dotted and the T's crossed? Because there's a big difference. And each day that the product doesn't move on the rail line is $1 billion lost. So I've read. And so that's a big deal. So that matters. And it seems kind of muddy for official language. Forthwith, as quick as possible. By end of day right now, by end of day today, get back to work. I hope the afternoon shift is ready to come on. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we could be a bit more clear in our language. That would be good. Anyway, moving on. The move has been met with relief from some and sparked condemnation from others. Canadians must be assured that their government will not allow them to suffer when parties do not feel their responsibility to them at the bargaining table, especially where worker and community safety is at stake, he said, following a day of key meetings with stakeholders. The other part of this is, though, the employer wanted to have wanted to launch things with regards to safety that would wind back things that the union found important about safety. But I don't know the details to comment intelligently about it, but I know there are safety implications, and the union's concerned that the employer wants to roll back to a different era of safety standards, and they're worried about that. And the other thing that the union doesn't like is that the employer wants to be able to move employees across Canada at the drop of a hat. Say like, okay, you're working in Red Deer now, or you're working in Halifax now, or you're working in wherever now. And so moving across the country is not something that most people sign up for. Now, I mean, maybe it's part and parcel of the job, like trucking, right? Like it would be strange.
Good evening. We begin tonight.
I don't know why it started playing. Sorry about that, everyone. It would be strange for a trucker to be upset about having to, drive long distances or something to that effect. But there are short haul truckers. There are local truckers who just do deliveries around town type deal and go home every night, and there are long haul truckers. So it would be like you're a short haul trucker and they want to change you into doing long haul, and you don't really want to. I think that it's a reasonable thing for the union to be upset about that. And some people I talked to said, nah, it comes with territory. Sorry, man, you work for CN, then you can just be moved anywhere. And that's that. And I was like, I don't agree with that. So, but maybe I'm too soft. I could be too soft. So all of this stuff is happening. And hold on, there might be the color that I'm interested in at the bottom here. Hold on. Even the newspaper article says that it's unclear. It says it remains unclear when exactly rail operations will resume, though the minister expressed hope that it will be within the next few days, as the impacts both on the daily lives of millions of Canadians and the economy cannot be understated. McKinnon said the lack of clarity is because, as an arm's length body, the CIRB now has to consult with the parties involved before rendering a decision on the next steps. Obviously, I'm acting at a very early stage here and hoping that they will act with similar dispatch, but again, I want to be deferential to the process that will unfold here, he said. So, hopefully things will be back to normal next week, and we'll just see a small little bubble, and everything will be just fine. Right. Yowza. Who knows? But again, the government not acting before this became a crisis and waiting until it was an actual crisis in full swing before doing like really anything about it is the reason why there's even uncertainty around any of this. There shouldn't be. It damages our country, damages trade, it damages all sorts of things, damages our reputation on the world stage. Oh, you know, Canada can't even get their internal shipping figured out, right? Like idiots, right? Like, and yeah, idiots, right? So the people in charge are not doing what they should be doing. Jenny Woodward is saying, where's the no confidence vote? I think I said that already. And so people are wanting that. So we'll see how this whole rail thing figures out, but probably by next week, there'll be something else in the news cycle that's more important. But this was a completely self-imposed crisis that the Liberals could have avoided and didn't. And, well, I mean, and we're the people who suffer. Like, Canadians are the ones who suffer, right? So, City News, Vancouver, let's move on. The pilots want to strike, or the union representing Air Canada pilots have voted to authorize a strike. So they said the rail guys are striking, so we're out too. See you later. It'll be in September, I guess September 9, they have the authorization to strike. So weird, right? That's very, very interesting. This is hilarious for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons is he holds up a bag of apples and calls them potatoes. So that's interesting. Also, the baby formula in 2012, 2013, these things were $35. They've doubled in price since then. That's crazy. 10 years ago, it was on, like, I bought them then, and I bought the name brand, and that's a small box, and you can get a bigger box, and the bigger box was even like $65 or something like that, for more than double that, right? And so it's a small little container, and he's saying it's $70 now. Here's Jagmeet Singh mixing up apples and potatoes.
We're hearing the cost of living is a major concern. People are really feeling squeezed. They're feeling like they can't get ahead. And we just went grocery shopping here in the riding. We bought 2 items. And this is really telling of what people are going through. 2 items. This is baby formula. Cost over $70 for this baby formula. A sack of potatoes, 1 bag of potatoes, cost $9. These 2 items, just 2 items, almost $80. How is that acceptable? How is that okay that families are spending $70 for this? Look at this. This is all it is. $70 for this and almost $10 for this bag of apples. That is what people are talking about. They're saying that, how do I buy my groceries? How do I get ahead? I can barely get by. And I want people to know this is not by chance that we find ourselves in this position. This is by design. This is because Justin Trudeau let big corporate grocery stores rip you off. We know they did it with bread price fixing.
And here I thought he was going to talk about things that actually were impacting us. Now, yes, sure, bread price fixing, that was allowed to happen, absolutely. But Galen Weston, being an evil, evil guy, he didn't raise the carbon tax in an inflationary way. He didn't print money in an inflationary way. And Jagmeet Singh trying to convince us that Galen Weston is the bad guy is not, it's not convincing. It's not something that I'm thinking, oh yeah, Jagmeet Singh is on my side and he's telling me the truth. It seems like Jagmeet Singh has something to hide or two. And I don't know. I don't believe any of the misdirection that any of the way he's trying to direct my anger. I'm not buying it. Anyway, we'll let him finish.
They fix the price of bread. They're doing it, ripping off people. And Justin Trudeau's solution was to tell you to look at grocery rebates or grocery flyers. Look at flyers that are coming in your mail as some sort of solution. That was insulting. He's the one who chose to give millions of dollars to large corporate grocery stores like Loblaws. He chose again and again to protect the profits of these large corporate grocery stores instead of protecting you. And we put forward a bill to say, you know what we could do to reduce prices immediately? Let's put in place a price cap on the price of food essentials. Other countries have done it. Let's do it here. A price cap to immediately bring down the price of groceries. Justin Trudeau and Pierre Poilievre voted against it. They made it clear whose side they're on. They chose
not the side of price caps, food shortages and price caps. It's not a good idea. It's a very bad idea. And Jagmeet Singh is ideologically out of touch with, well, me anyway. I don't know about most Canadians. I think so, but it seems like he's got a lot of power and lots of young kids really like his TikTok videos or something. Tom Quiggin is responding to this. Moving on, York Regional Police say body identified as that of missing Markham woman. A York Regional Police Chief Jim McSween, along with homicide investigators, will be speaking to the media at 11 a.m. Tom says, nothing to see here, move along. It's just the murder of Anita Muai, a high-profile realtor and leader in Chinese-Canadian groups associated to senior Canadian politicians and Chinese consulate officials. Trudeau and the treasonous MPs must be getting a bit nervous. So, interesting. So there are people out there who know, and now high-profile people in high-profile positions connected to people like our politicians and Chinese consulates are turning up dead. I'm sure it's nothing. Right? Nothing interesting ever happens in Canada, so I'm sure it's nothing. Here is a Liberal MP won re-election, and Chair Christie says he's a poll watcher. He says progressive conservative election modeler. So, and he says Waterford Valley Liberal candidate Tom Osborne has won. The result is widely expected as Mr. Osborne was a high-profile hockey player and a former city councillor. So Liberals hold that seat, right? So there you go. Just in case you were wondering, people are still voting Liberal, even though Liberals are terrible. Awful, terrible, awful. Still voting Liberal. Unbelievable. Anyway, QP Local sent a letter talking about Fred Han, and I thought this was interesting because it's not just calling out Han, it's calling out all of the focus that's on social justice and not on actual bargaining or workers or the job or anything to that effect. QP has been turned into completely 100% political arm and has nothing to do with protecting workers or anything else like that. They're political, I don't know, goons for hire or something to that effect. They'll come and, speak at your rally, et cetera, as long as you make a hefty donation to QP, right? Or something like that. I don't know the details exactly. But here's QP Local 5167, and they've sent a letter to the QP National, and they say, QP Local 5167 executive met to discuss the recent video posted on social media by QP Ontario President Fred Han and its impact on QP membership. The role of a QP union leader is to represent members first and foremost. As those members, we do not condone these horrific and insensitive actions that are hurtful and divisive. QP Local 5167 executive calls for the immediate resignation or removal of Fred Han as the president of QP Ontario. Fred's personal viewpoint on the Palestinian and Israel conflict does not reflect the scope of our union. Fred's actions have contributed to the fracturing of the QP Ontario labor movement. We further request that QP Ontario focus their efforts on supporting the work of their membership and building solidarity within memberships on shared labor issues. So, the union exists to serve the membership about their job. It doesn't exist to virtue signal about Israel-Palestine, basically. And I would say that to, I think it's QP Alberta as well, right? They've been weaponized, and they're married to the NDP, or they were, right? So it's interesting that the membership and the exec in the membership are starting to push back and use their weight to push back. So that's good news, but it's one of those things that is, I don't know if it's going to be enough, right? Fred Han is powerful, and he's got a powerful position, just like the old Unifor boss. He didn't want to go, right? And it took some convincing to get him gone, didn't it? So anyway, Rex Glacier is responding to CBC News. CBC says CBC News is posting more news about the Democrats and Harris than they're posting about Justin Trudeau. I think it's 4-1, right? So for every one they post about Canada, they post 4 articles about the United States and Kamala Harris. So that's interesting. So CBC News is saying Democrats were left energized after a speech where Harris compared her own working class upbringing as the daughter of immigrants with an opponent, Donald Trump, she characterized as an egomaniac friend to billionaires, right? Oh, yes. And Rex says, why are Canadian taxpayers paying for 24/7 election coverage? Great question. And then it's got the Sun front page talking about name the 11 federal candidates that are placed by China, right? So I think that's interesting because really I don't think anything else matters. There are things that are important, and then there are second tier things that are important. And the main thing that's important is Chinese traders took over our government and now they're trying to implement censorship laws. And that seems bad. That seems real bad. So we shouldn't do that. And we shouldn't let them do that. And instead, we're fighting about things that are second order of importance, which, like, they're still important, right? I mean, this isn't important. Listening about Kamala Harris and stuff. Like, I've got funny stories about Kamala Harris and the DNC. I'm not reporting on it to tell you you should vote Harris or vote Trump or anything to that effect. I'm just watching it because I think the election is going to have an impact in Canada. And I think maybe Trump's the better option, but at this point, who knows, right? It seems like Trump's the better option between him and Kamala, right? So, and it'll be a lot more entertaining with Trump in the White House rather than Kamala. So at this point, sure, I support Trump, but I don't have a horse in that race. I can't vote for Trump. So anyway, Wall Street Apes, this applies in Canada because we're doing the same thing in Canada, but this guy really illustrates it. I've said before, I was driving through Newfoundland and I noticed all these dead trees, like acres and acres of dead trees with live trees kind of, here and there between them. But you got to clear those trees out, man. But it doesn't appear to be happening. And what are they going to do? They're going to blame climate change when those trees eventually light on fire, because they're going to light on fire, right? There's going to be a forest fire with all that fuel stacked up, drying year after year, getting ready to burn, right? That's basically what's going on. So this guy's out in the US and he's talking about, we've got lots of money to spend on foreign wars, but you know what we're not doing? We're not spending money on cleaning up these forests. We're not doing any preventative work in these forests here. Here we go.
Beloved, do you want to know why the West is on fire and why these forest fires are out of control? Let me show you. This is our national forest. This is how they manage it. What do you think is going to happen to these trees, to this forest, if a fire starts in here? Could you walk through there? If you wanted to create an environment for fire to thrive, you couldn't do better. We've got all the money in the world to send bombs to go over and kill people that have never done anything to us. But here back at home, we can't lift a finger. But you bet we're paying them. You bet we're paying them. Beloved, do you want...
Right? So it's interesting. It's interesting. They're talking in the UK about paying farmers to scuttle their crops, not harvest the crops, and they'll still get paid for them, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think what he's talking about is the forest management guys are still being paid, but they're not doing any of the work that they're supposed to be doing. And I remember when there used to be, not debates about forest management, but there used to be backburns. There used to be all sorts of proactive stuff that we did in Canada to maintain the safety of the forests. You used to have like 2 football fields of cleared brush between trees that you're harvesting for paper, and all sorts of like rules and things like that. And people talked about it on TV like it was an important thing, and all of a sudden we stopped doing it. In like early 2000 we stopped doing it. I don't know why, it just stopped. And anybody who tried to start it up is kind of similar to anybody who tried to tell you anything outside of the official narrative on COVID or anything to that effect, right? So hello everyone, thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to canadapoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful